Hey everybody, welcome back to Leadership Unveiled. My name is Kayla Fahey-Ahrndt, and on this channel / podcast, we talk about organization, mindset, planning, career, and leadership, all the things. And so if you love those topics, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. And also, just to know, on Monday, June 26th, I'm hosting a free boot camp called Organized AF, where it's 4 days where I'm talking through my best tips to help you get more organized at work, which means you're more proactive, you get more accountability and sometimes more responsibility, which means more promotions, more money, more time freedom, less stress, less burnout. Hello, vibrance, no more putting out fires all day, every single day. Okay, so sign up for that. The link is in the description below. If you're interested, I will send you all the information you need to know. I'll be live here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, as well as in the Facebook group for the challenge so we can dive in deep together. I can't wait to see you there. All right, let's get to it. Today, we're going to be talking about that organizational tip to help you get beyond task work and more to being a visionary and creating this beautiful strategy that helps you be that proactive, successful leader who's making the money, who has the time freedom, who doesn't feel stressed and burnout all the time. All right. So I want to start talking about kind of a story and a situation, and I hope you can relate. I've definitely been in this place. So when I first started as a leader, I remember having a checklist or to-do list that was 3 notebook pages long. And so if you're a nerd like me, you know that each normal college ruled notebook is 26 lines on the front and the back. So if it was front and back 3 pages, you do the math, that's an insane amount of to-dos, right? And so I remember I would take that to-do list and I would move my tasks over to my planner. And at the time I was using the Happy Planner, which I still love Happy Planner. I have my own workbook now that I've developed and made totally unique to leadership and professional work. But at the time, Happy Planner worked great. And it was just literally taking 3 things or less off of that enormous to-do list every day and plopping it into my day. There were totally times where I would do things that weren't on that to-do list. They would pop up during the day and I'd be like, that's an easy one. And I would just get that done. And I would, before you know it, there's so many different things like that, right? You've got your email open, somebody comes to talk to you, and all of a sudden you're just taking care of things you hadn't planned to do. Fine, but you still can feel a bit accomplished because you're look, I checked the box, right? But then that is not sustainable because over time, what would happen is I'd have to play catch up. So I'm going to try to find the picture and plop it here for you all. But I remember specifically, and this is after I had gotten a little bit better at managing my days and being proactive, but still it was an issue. I had to catch up. I'm going to find a picture and put it here. It's of me in the office. I think it was a Friday. Everybody had taken the day off and I was still there, right? So I was at work on a Friday. Everyone else was off. And I took over the entire office with just piles of paperwork that needed to be sorted or dealt with from my desk. And I had to organize that chaos. And the only way I knew how to do that was take all the pieces of paper and make them into piles and then be okay, now I'm going to keep the papers together. And then I'll slowly start to work through these piles and I know what I have to get done. So it was kind of a problem in 2 ways. One way was I would try to tackle the things that mattered most to me, which means things I generated, things that I came up with, but I didn't have a great system for things other people needed me to do or that was outside. So it was I didn't have a great way to manage the ins of my to-dos. So the input or the inbox. And this isn't just email. In my role at the time, I had a lot of papers to sign off on and review, physically look at a sheet of paper. So it was okay, so just add it to the pile. Literally every day when somebody put something in my mailbox or on my desk was just yeah, throw it on top of the pile. And at some point I'm going to have to deal with that. So I specifically remember one of my colleagues, Rory is his name. He came by the office. He saw me working there by myself and he was like, what are you doing? You look like a psychopath. And I was like, I'm organizing myself. Which, it was helpful at the time, but it wasn't actually getting anything done. It was trying to create a system when the stack of piles was literally this tall and I had to get it into smaller little piles. And he took a picture of me And I remember like sitting in my chair and I was like, yay. And this isn't the only time I would do that. I did that over and over in my career. And on those days I felt good because I was like, okay, now I have clarity around what the hell is in this freaking pile, right? Like I didn't know sometimes. I'm like, I was like, I assume it's this. This is what typically comes in my inbox, but I actually don't really know. And that felt like a risk to me, right? It was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable enough for me to be like, I've got to do something totally different. And so I went from this like 3-page times 26 times 2 items, right? And a huge stack of piles into little piles into how could I do this better? So we started using Leader Standard Work, which is a tool. I'll link in the description below, but I have a few you can snag. A tool for sort of figuring out what are the common daily, weekly, and monthly tasks I need to be doing to be successful. So it was kind of like a habit tracker almost for work, which was super helpful. So that was great because it got me from like piles of things to being clear on my tasks. And also it helped me fit in some more process level things. So in the video today, what I want to talk to you about is, like I said, how to get from to-dos to that like very strategic visionary. And so here is the framework. I hope I teed this up for you with that story because I don't know if you can relate, but just feeling like you have a mountain on top of you. And at some point you're like, I don't even know what there is to organize. And now I'm feeling extreme shame for not having it all together or the way that I would want to have it together, right? As high achievers, we're always way harder on ourselves than we would be on other people, right? So I was trying to do what felt like a Herculean task, and I was just a human. So I had to figure out another way. So of course I tried Leader Standard Work and that was great, but it only takes you so far. So you need other tools like how to manage projects so that you can be strategic. So let me give you the mindset tip that I want you to have as you're starting to like organize yourself more. And we're going to go into this in depth in the free training on Monday or that next week. So sign up if you like this topic is resonating. But here's the framework. So think about moving from tasks, and that you're probably looking at this backwards, I'm not sure, but tasks being number one, right? Then process level. So if you're like a frontline team member, you're doing the work, whatever, you're doing tasks. As a leader, you might be stuck in that like task focus where you're just checking off your to-dos and hoping you feel accomplished. But at the end of the day, you're like, I don't even know if I moved the needle, right? Next, we get to what we call processes. So you have control as a leader or even a frontline team member running a project or an improvement for a process. So a process is like lots of little tasks that come into one like theme, essentially, right? You have to do a lot of little things to accomplish a workflow. But what I really want you to start thinking about is the outcome. So the outcome is the collective vision of where do we want to be? How do we want to feel? What do we want it to look like when we accomplish all those tasks? When we put all those processes together, what is the outcome? So you might hear other growth or leadership people say, like, begin with the end in mind. And that is what they mean. That is what they mean. There are other famous people, I forget their names, that say something like, what's your Disney? What's your Disney? So think about if you could create anything, like Walt Disney said, if I could create anything out of Disney, what would that look like? And he would like brainstorm and map out all these ideas and how they're connected. As a leader or in a high-performing, proactive professional, you need to be thinking way beyond the task or even the process level, but the outcome that you're hoping to achieve. Once you know where you're going, it's so much easier to work backwards and be like, what do I need to do to get there? So I think that is one of the huge things that we miss as professionals and leaders at work is we are so focused on the to-dos and getting the process and the things done, but we're not actually sure what the goal is. So yes, this is goal setting, but even beyond that, it's like visionary thinking for where we want to be. And that takes practice. And I think we're not all used to doing that because we haven't had training on that. So I'm going to teach a few tips about that next week. But one thing I'll tell you to get you started is just by creating a roadmap for the end of the year. So what I like to do is give all of my people, like they'll have their goals and tasks and I'll align them with the months of the year across the top of a spreadsheet. And then we'll start to map out like what projects are you working on and when are those coming due? And we start looking what we have teed up. And then I kind of ask the question like, if we were to end the year with these things done, would we feel good? And were these the right things and the priorities to get done in that year? And if the answer is yes, it's like, great. And if the answer is like, I don't know, but then you want to relook at it. So a good example is we redid one of our labs this year, our laboratories. We redesigned it, but it needs some tweaks to be like a perfect design. But we want to do other projects that are more important with our operating room on our other campus. We don't have enough resources and time and people to do both. So we asked ourselves, can we live with our current state, which is redesigned and better, but maybe not perfect, and work on the stuff for the operating room first? And will that help us feel like we're in a good place when we end 2023? And the answer was yeah. So we decided, okay, we're going to pause on these like optimizations for one of our campuses, but we're going to focus on the OR work. And that just felt like in alignment. So at the end of the year, are we where we want to be if we were to accomplish all these things? And how would that feel and look? If it feels and looks good, then go for it. If it doesn't, then you need to reevaluate. All right, so I hope this was helpful thinking about moving beyond tasks into processes, into outcomes is going to help you. So in the case of like all my stacks of papers, if I was to think backwards and kind of set a goal for myself for that year, it would have been like creating a process for how things come in and maybe delegating work to others that could do it. I clearly didn't necessarily need to be doing it if it had sat there for a bit on my desk, right? And so maybe I had kind of prioritized a few projects to get that work through, that work done quicker through organizing my time better and thinking about, okay, if I was able to move beyond the tasks and these like papers, like what could I accomplish that would feel great? I could work on a bigger level process and therefore a way bigger impact and a better outcome for my team. So I love the question of what's your Disney? Begin with the end in mind. What's one thing or one project or one outcome you're hoping to achieve that if you did that thing would make everything else easier and everything else essentially unnecessary? All right, if you like this content, again, like and subscribe to the video so you never miss another video from me. Check out all the links in the description below. I'm so happy you tuned in and I hope you love my little new setup. I'm trying to get all the tech better. So bear with me and let me know in the comments if this resonated, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.